We have to get to our next guest.
Yes.
They are a movie buff. Now, this is exciting. I don't know what movies they've seen, but please welcome to the show, Shaden Gallbreath.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going really well. How are you, Shaden?
I'm doing really well, actually. Yeah.
You actually are, really?
Yeah, I'm actually doing really well. I've actually been doing really well during this time. Yeah.
That's great. Well, I would imagine for a movie buff such as yourself, not being able to leave the house, as long as you have good internet, you can stream the latest releases, and you'd be able to catch up a lot on your pastime.
I've been able to watch a lot of films. Yeah.
What's your last name, Shaden? I didn't quite catch your last name.
Gallbreath. Did your ancestors have something wrong with their gallbladders, so they had gallbreath?
My ancestors. Here's what's up. So I submitted my spit to 23andMe, and they sent it back.
Did they ask for it, or did you just...
I submitted it from an Instagram ad.
That's what's up, Scott. That's what's up.
They sent it back, and they said, you're going to change history if we get into this stuff.
Oh, okay.
There's just too much info.
So they just never gave you the information?
They said, we can't get into it. Your spit's too thick.
Too thick? So you have thick spit?
Some have said,
who are these people? Doctors? Lovers?
Well, a couple of the ladies.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
When you get deep in a French kiss, a lot can go down.
Well, I can only imagine French kissing someone with very thick spit. It would almost be like being waterboarded.
Okay. Yeah, dude.
So Shaden, Shaden Gallbreath, you're a movie buff. You've been doing really well, actually. And
I've been doing really well. So, in this time, I've been doing really well.
Sure, you said that three times.
So we're just in this time, where things are so uncertain, but I'm finding a way to kind of just make it work for me in this sense,
Tell us about that. Tell us. I mean, I guess I was interested in the movie buff part of your resume, but we can talk about how you've been doing in this rough time for a little bit longer if you want.
I'd love to. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to get into it. I feel like it's really relatable content because, we're living this time where everything's so uncertain and there's just no,
you've said that 4 times now. Yeah.
This is the deal, Scott.
We're kind of getting into a new normal. We're kind of adjusting what we consider normal to being a new normal. And ultimately for me, it's been really great because, I've dropped a lot of bad habits and adopted a lot of great new ones.
What was a bad habit?
Yeah.
What did you get rid of?
What did you drop and what did you pick up?
One of my bad habits that I was doing regularly was actually my job. I did not like the job that I had.
How were you employed pre-pandemic?
Pre-pandemic, my employment was such. Okay, so I would leave the house at 7:06 a.m. every day on the dot and get myself in my car and, of course, find myself at my place of business, which ultimately was a very important place. It was a place where, goods are sold. And so
you seem pretty private. It seems like you're sort of protecting something. Is there something that you're hiding?
I don't know whether Shaden is being cagey or whether this is just the way Shaden talks.
I would just ultimately work there for 8 hours plus per day. And on my way home, find myself getting home, So when I get home, I'd find myself having a snack and popping on a flick. And now that I have all this time, I'm finding that I'm watching flicks all day. And it's been so indubitably wonderful for me just to have this time.
Sure. Okay. Well, let's talk about the flicks, as you call them, or the movies, films. You're a movie buff. How many have you seen over the course of your life, would you say?
Oh, I mean, okay, so I've seen probably, I could never even quantify such an amount. I mean, I've seen all the films. I mean, honestly, that's what's so amazing because, when you get in a conversation with people that you don't know, for example, me talking to you guys right now.
Sure. This is a good example of that, yeah.
This is a great example of a conversation with people speaking who don't know each other. And I don't know what films you've seen, yet at the same time, I feel I've probably seen them. Do you know what I'm saying?
At the same time, you could probably list films that I haven't seen and I would know what they were, or at least I would say, oh, is that a film?
Sure, absolutely. So what is
a movie favorite? like a movie like Bubble Boy, for instance?
Oh,
yes, absolutely. It's a fantastic film starring Tom Green. Couldn't get out of that. Couldn't get out of that little bubble.
I believe Jake Gyllenhaal was the star of.
Exactly, and so the brown hair, and the ways in which they did, So I love that film. I think the acting was incredible.
I was in that film, Shaden. I was in that movie. Did you?
I know. So I actually wanted to bring that up. So how was your time experience working on that?
With Tom Green?
Yeah.
It was, it was really, I got to work with Fabio. I got to work with Beetlejuice from Howard Stern. Some of the acting greats.
It would have been so good if it was Beetlejuice from Beetlejuice, though. Because he's so funny.
He's
Beetlejuice
so funny.
is a great actor. He's one of those guys that you just can't look away from.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite flick, Shaden?
Yeah, well, what I love about discovering within conversation is to kind of find what people enjoy and see if we have a crossover. So I'm curious, Mr. Scott, like what ultimately for you is one of your favorite films?
Mr. Scott.
I enjoy films such as The Godfather, Raging Bull, Apocalypse Now, Citizen Kane. These are the types of films that I enjoy.
Citizen Kane, absolute classic film.
Tell us about it.
Well, one thing people love so much about Citizen Kane is that while it was in black and white, ultimately the rosebud was in color, and that was one of the most innovative technologies.
Actually, not true.
Used at that time.
I think they used that technology for Schindler's List with the little girl's dress. Spoiler alert.
I know.
But spoiler alert, Mr. Scott.
There's a little girl. She wears a dress. I'm sorry to give that away, but
no, absolutely, you can't spoil it for me. I've seen it all, so I know that one. Really well.
I have to say, Shaden, Gallbreath. For a film buff, you're getting a lot of the details incorrect about these films that you're discussing.
I'm always open to, to discussion because I think one of the things that makes art so powerful is that we can have multiple opinions and point of views. What
was the last film that you saw?
Trolls World Tour.
Starring?
Fucking hilarious. Starring pink guy, blue guy, the green.
I guess the voices that voice the characters.
I love that little pink girl. She's hysterical.
Yeah,
absolutely. And what I love so much about the film is that music was so powerful in that film. And I think what we don't recognize with a lot of films, and this is something that I've gotten, I've gleaned over years of watching films, is that you need a score, to really hit the emotion.
You're saying that movies need music in them?
This is my belief from all my experience of watching, that I find that it really enhances it when there's music underlying the scenes, because emotion is just out of this world at that point. You can really manipulate the audience.
Have you seen a movie that has no score?
I did watch a film that had no score, no sound, nothing, no sound design of any sort. It was Barefoot in the Park, and I realized I had it on mute the entire time. But what I'll tell you is that it really lacked without having that music.
Did you understand what was going on, or I can only imagine?
I think I got a lot of the points of it with the woman and man, because at the root of it all, and let me just say, at the root of it all.
Let's boil this down. Let's at the end of the day, at the root of it all.
Every movie has the same plot.
Does it?
Boy meets girl.
Boy meets girl.
Boy falls in love with girl.
Okay.
Girl introduces boy to dad. Dad says no. They don't get married. And you'll find that actually does map over every single film.
Yeah, I guess if you're, take another film and Trolls World Tour. Trolls 1. Okay.
No, Trolls World Tour would be fabulous. So in that film, exactly what I'm saying. So in that film, what happens is that, the girl, she's meeting the guy, and they're on this sort of journey, and ultimately her dad doesn't want her to be with him. And at the end, the music does save everything, because everybody realizes the
But how does that matter? You're forgetting what you just said not 60 seconds ago. How does that
You're really combative. No. I mean,
it's not that I'm combative. I just I'm having a little difficulty understanding your point of view.
This happens a lot with strong men, because strong men, when they meet each other face to face, they go toe to toe, and they will slam each other down. Like, when we do this all the time. Men do this to each other.
Okay. I don't mean to go toe to toe with you, or nose to nose, or tip to tip, or anything with you necessarily, as much as
it wouldn't line up. I'm extremely tall.
I actually am tall myself. How tall are you?
How tall are you?
I'd like to hear you first, and then I'll tell you how tall I am.
Okay, I'm 6'11".
That's taller. Okay. So your tip
really tall.
Your tip would actually
My tip would probably reach your belly button.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I'm sure you'd like that.
So how did you get interested in movies? Because it doesn't sound like you seem to have a lot of theories about them that are maybe they make sense more in your head to you than us necessarily. I don't know whether you're able to communicate them properly, but how did you get interested in film?
That was a little condescending, so ultimately I think I am able to communicate really well what I feel because I have these conversations in depth online and in person all the time. It's actually my biggest passion. So how did I get into film? Yeah, well, it's a simple story. So when I started out in this world, of course, I hadn't seen any films. I was born
as a baby.
I was born having no knowledge of film. I didn't even know what it was. And so to find me here now, it's amazing the journey I've been on because I truly came in with no experience, no family connection to film, no, there's no nepotism involved with this. It's truly, I found it on my own. What
would nepotism to a film buff be like? Where your parents were film buffs, or?
Yeah, and there's just this immediate intro. My mom didn't. My mom didn't really care about film. My father also didn't really care about film.
So, when was the first film that you ever saw? Do you remember that experience? Sitting in the dark, movie theater.
I remember extremely well. So I was 2, and I was let into a movie theater by myself. This was
what part of the world do you live in, Shaden?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Where I'm from?
Any question directed at you, you can just assume from now on.
When I say Shaden,
that it's directed at you.
The city in which I'm from, well, the original town in which I was born ultimately was in Georgia, but where I'm from, I guess I technically say when I have to answer that question, I say I'm from Boise, Idaho, when I have to answer
So where were you as a 2-year-old wandering? Were you in Georgia or in?
Yes, at that time I was in a small town named Kelly, Georgia.
Okay, Kelly, Georgia. And your parents, Kelly? And your parents just let you loose into a movie theater and said, okay, you're on your own, Shaden?
So I had a sort of experience as a child that was very, very much mapping Baby's Day Out, where I was let loose into a city and suddenly was avoiding huge falling objects, construction sites. Yes, absolutely. And I found myself in a movie theater and I saw the first film that I ultimately would have ever seen at this point.
And which film was that?
That film was, well, it wasn't appropriate for a child. Okay. So does that narrow it down? No.
Well,
what year was this?
Well, given my age and where I'm from,
it was approximately your age, minus everything but 2.
Exactly. and you're good with numbers, but so am I, and the ways in which I've aged, they don't define me, but they do add years in which I'm able to see more films. And so I think this is like a time for me.
So it doesn't really narrow it down for me. The only guess I have is Baby's Day Out.
You would be right.
Wow, Mr. Scott.
Wow. So you are on a Baby's Day Out situation. Dodging rivets and girders, construction workers, holes in the ground, walking or crawling rather probably upon planks that had just come down, just in the last second in order for you to avoid, dropping into a hole. And then you find yourself in a theater that is showing a film that essentially is describing the journey that you had to get there.
It was unbelievable. And when I say that film's not for children, what I mean is it inspires bad behavior, which I would not want any child to have. So that film is really an adult film. That film should be rated X.
Oh, wow. You think
I don't know whether, R seems maybe a little more appropriate if you thought, X implies a hardcore sex happening in it, which... I would say NC-17 would be the most that I would give that. Do you know what ratings are? Have you?
Do I know what ratings are? See, this is yes, I do know what ratings are. You have A through X, and you're able to go based on age. Hold on, based on the age of the person. So A is for someone who's 1 and under. B is 2, 3, C. 4, D.
So you think a rated X movie should be for 26 or 24-year-olds?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I would say you have to be at least 24 to watch Baby's Day Out.
Okay. Interesting.
And then the part where there's that insane sex scene is really inappropriate for children.
Wait, there's a sex scene in Baby's Day? I don't remember this.
Because the parents are finally alone for the first time since they had the kid.
So they got at it?
I'm not sure that you saw Baby's Day Out as much as you saw Baby's Day Out, a porn parody.
It might have been called It might have been called Daddy's Day In.
I love that film.
All right, well, let's get some movie trivia out there. You you wrote to me before the show and said that you wanted to talk about interesting movie trivia. Let's hear what you have to say. What are some of those interesting? You know, a lot of people, they watch films and they don't know the little details behind them. I watched Jaws with some friends recently. And this was at a drive-in, of course, and my friend was texting me little details like, oh, this person was a local hire who never auditioned but did so well, but then never moved out of the town that they filmed Jaws in. What are some of those interesting details that we maybe don't know about films?
So, okay, I'm sure you're familiar with the film My Girl.
Yeah.
My Girl, starring Macaulay Culkin and a bunch of bees.
Well, that's what they want you to think. Now, so the moment when the bees attack and kill the child, spoiler alert, of course.
Of course.
In that moment, those bees were completely fabricated by CGI.
I don't know that that's necessarily true, because as far as I can recall, My Girl came out definitely in the early 90s, but CGI, was invented for the Terminator 2 and the Michael Jackson black and white video, but I don't know whether it was in popular use by this point.
The way you're talking, it's so interesting because it kind of sounds like you think you know a lot about films.
Well, that's true. Okay, maybe I don't know. I mean, I guess
no. I mean,
hand in hand with surprising trivia is the fact that it would surprise someone. So I don't know why I'm doubting it, because I am surprised.
There you go. Okay, so how about this one for you?
Okay.
In the film Star Wars, the
1977,
the original film, one of the
New Hope.
Exactly. So, one of the things people
starring
don't
Harrison Ford as Han Solo.
Absolutely. So one of the things people really don't know about this film, and would be shocked to believe, is that inside of the R2-D2 costume was actually George Lucas, and he desired to be in the film but didn't want to be seen.
George Lucas was R2-D2?
He was in there.
I don't mean to quibble, but it's listed as Kenny
Quibi.
Baker.
It's called Quibi, and it is doing really well.
I don't mean to Quibi either. Quibi seems a little more up your alley, I have to say, for someone with a short attention span.
Yeah.
Like you, it seems like maybe Quibi would be something that you'd be more interested in films. Maybe you should turn yourself into a Quibi buff.
Oh.
I hesitate to tell you, but I've seen everything on Quibi.
Everything?
Really? The lady with the golden arm? The rest?
I saw that. I saw the Murder Flip House. I saw
Die Hard?
Yep.
Wait, we can't be a Quibi podcast. We're already a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. By the way, have you seen any of those movies?
Yes, I've seen all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies, and I'll give you a fun trivia since you seem to be intrigued by this. So one of the things about that people are really surprised to know about the Ninja Turtle films is that they were actually written by a teenager, and the films were found in a diary of his, and he wrote about his experience meeting these Ninja Turtles in the street and how they helped him, and this was shaped into the film. So it was actually extremely important that a teenager had to play a huge role.
Shaden, how old are you?
So when you think about the year in which I was born, minus now.
Okay. You go 2020 minus the year you were born, and that would be the age that you are, yeah.
So that would be the age that I am. So
Shaden, have you ever seen a movie?
So with the experience that I have...
Shaden. Stop dithering. Just answer the question directly and to the point.
Shaden, have you ever seen a movie? Any movie?
I want you to define what you're talking about, because honestly, I'm getting uncomfortable.
A movie is I don't know, Arden, how would you describe a movie? Okay, it's a piece of long-form entertainment.
Yep.
Usually to qualify, it's longer than 75 minutes.
Yep. It's between 70, it can go upwards to 3 hours or so.
What, like 10 Quibbies?
Approximately 10 Quibbies.
But it's usually sort of, you do it in one sitting. Back in the day, you would do it out in public at a movie theater. In
a public house where the lights would go down, popcorn would be served.
Yes, of course.
Have you ever experienced this?
Have you ever seen any movie? Any movie?
Just a yes or no question. Yes or no. Just
I can't
please.
be. Well, here's what I'm just struggling.
Enough with the qualifiers.
I'm struggling because I don't like to be limited in my answering. You're saying I have to say either yes or no. I can't say anything about it.
Stop equivocating. Please, just tell us.
No. Okay?
I thought so. Why?
Are you happy?
Why are you lying to us, Shaden?
I'm not lying. I'm trying to just get through the conversation. I mean, I think it's
by lying to us.
Why did you email in? Why
did you ask to be on this show? I wanted to have a real movie
when you're
buff
talking
on
to
the
someone
show.
and they're like, "Have you seen this movie?" And you're like, "Yes," and you just keep going and you get through it, and it's just easier than having to explain it to you. And I've done that over and over again. I feel like I've seen every movie. I don't know why I have to even like justify this to you.
But you reached out to Scott and advertised yourself as a film buff,
as the ultimate film buff, by the way. And I would have just had a film buff on, but then when I saw the word ultimate film buff, I was like, oh well, I have to have this.
Would I have gotten on if I told you what my real passion was?
What is your real passion?
You're not going to like it.
Okay,
just try us. I find that as long as you're being honest, I would much rather hear about that than a person lying about something they don't know anything about.
It's going to sound so crazy now.
It already sounded a little crazy.
This is a safe space.
So what I'm interested in.
What are you interested in?
Ultimately, when I begin the day, I have to, fill my day with hobbies and such since I don't watch films.
Yeah.
And you don't go to work anymore.
No.
For 8+ hours. Leaving at 7:06 a.m.
I don't choose to go to that store anymore.
Okay.
Goods, services.
We're at goods and services, of course.
Best Buy?
It's okay.
Close.
It's okay. You can tell us.
Well, it's a safe space, Shaden.
Okay. So I take old clothes that people don't want.
Yeah.
I rip them up into small pieces.
Okay.
I create sausage casings made of old clothes.
Okay.
And fill it with other old clothes.
Okay.
So it looks like little clothing sausages. And then I whip those at cars that drive by.
That's what you do all day?
That's what you love to do. That's your hobby?
And it's not destructive because it's cloth.
I can only imagine that if I were driving and someone were to whip a denim hot dog at me, I would get distracted and maybe crash into the nearest fire hydrant, or at least the second nearest.
I mean, has that happened? Have you caused any crashes? I can see I would be alarmed as well, Scott.
See, I don't believe that what I've done has caused the crash. I believe that I threw something and a person crashed. You know what I'm saying? So
you have caused a crash.
Shaden, this is crazy. You're right. It's not a safe space. I'm judging you. I think you're an insane person. I regret inviting you on the show.
You know what? I think you're insane. How about that?
Well, you know what? I'm not, and you are. And I don't mean to mansplain insanity. Okay, I'm sorry,
but when you take your shirt off?
When I get mad, I do a Hulk Hogan. I rip my shirt off.
Look, I don't think it's unusual for me to do what I've done. I don't think it's unusual to go to a party and talk about films and pretend you've seen them and just get through the conversation. I'm sure you've done this.
Look, Shaden, I've had just about enough out of you, but can you stick around?
I'd love to.
Okay, great. Well,
you start with a C when you want to close it up. You lead with an L and then you open up the plug bag. Open up the plug bag. Take your hand and open it up. Then Horatio comes and then he just says, the days of paradise. I said it all my life. I said the days of paradise. Open up the plug bag. Open up that plug bag. Open up the plug bag. Open it up some plug bag. Open up the plug bag. Open up the plug bag. Everybody wants to open up the plug bag. Just keep it fucking open up the plug. Open up the plug. Open up the plug.
right, guys, I want to thank you so much. Arden, it's so great to see you.
Thank you for having
Congratulations
me
on
on.
writing a book, something so few people do. It's really an accomplishment, and you should feel great about yourself.
Thank you. This was really fun. Thank you for having me.
Turning from people who should be feeling good about themselves to two who should feel like shit about themselves, Shaden Gallbreath, look, you're a waste of time.
That's so fascinating
You're
for you
a
to say
waste
because
of carbon and molecules.
I see, because I fully disagree. And one thing I want to say is that everyone listening needs to buy Arden's book, either for someone in their life or for themselves, because if we all did that, if we all band together, you know, this book could shoot and skyrocket to #1. So I do think this is a very important time.
Shaden's actually read the book. Shaden actually read it.
I have. I've read the entire book start to finish, and it is hilarious and heartbreaking. I mean, I cried and I laughed, and I laughed and I cried. I cried from laughing.
Did you laugh at the funny parts and cry at the sad parts, or vice versa?
Yeah, because I'm insane, man.
he laughed at the sad parts and cried at the funny
that didn't
parts.
happen to me.
I feel so good.